Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Tone Duncan. We're getting started in about another 45 seconds. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure that you are engaged and ready for a great conversation. This show will start in 45 seconds. Special shout out to everybody checking this out. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Getting ready for a good show today. Make sure you comment. Make sure that you hang out. All right, what's going on? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you. My name is Tone Duncan. I am your host for the Sunday conversation. I hope you've had a wonderful day. I hope that everything has started off awesome for you. I am always privileged to be able to spend this time and have a conversation with all of you on the Sunday conversation. So I want to say what's happening to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the different social media channels that are carrying this conversation right now. I ask that you like, I ask that you comment, and I ask that you share. Get engaged, get involved. Let's have a conversation today. And I'm sure that together, collectively, we will have a meaningful and engaging conversation. You know, Sunday's conversations are always challenging. And the reason they're so challenging is because I am attempting to do something that most people have found extremely complicated. You know, Sunday's conversation is about our pursuits in our faith, our way of finding our connection to the Most High, to the divine, to the great universe, to whatever you call it. It's our opportunity to discuss our spiritual path away from a focus on religion. Now, I know for a lot of us, that's like almost impossible, right? Because everything we've ever known about our spirituality has been given to us in some form of a religious context. I mean, so many of us, we cannot separate our spirituality from our religious traditions. Now, the only reason why this conversation focuses on a spiritual path instead of a religious path is because we have, in this day and age, found religions to sometimes not be as fulfilling as our deeper spiritual quest. Now, some of us, we're what you call really religious. And for those of you who are extremely religious, this might not be the right show for you because it will involve taking some time and deeply considering if the religion is truly what you're into or if it's the spiritual pursuits towards a deeper, more meaningful connection to our Creator and this universe. So some of us, we have a hard time with this. And I know some of you who are listening to this right now may have never really gotten a chance to ask yourself this question. But that is what this show is all about. That is what today's conversation is cornered in. Now, when I was younger, I really deeply held on to my religion because it felt so meaningful to the people that I tried to impress. I wanted my parents to look up to me. I wanted them to respect me and to think that I was a good kid. I wanted my neighbors to think that way. I wanted my peers to think that way. And I wanted adults, in general, to see that I was a good kid and that my parents were good people. And so much of my religious focus was based on the appeasement of other people. See, when I talk to you today about separating your spiritual focus from your religious awareness, I want you to understand that I say this knowing that it's going to be difficult for some of you to do. I know that for some of you, this is the most important conversation, because finally you get a chance to get a deeper connection to other people who pursue God without judgment. Some of you may say, I love your show because it moves me away from the confinements of other people's interpretation of what God is and what God means to me. Because ultimately, God is something that is deeply personal, regardless of what somebody else says. I talk to people, and the first thing we all agree on is that all of the greatest religious icons were people who had personal relationships with God, not based on what other people explained them to be, but truly based on what God revealed God to be to them. See, so many of us, we understand something, and that is we talk to this divine greater power personally every day, in the things that we think, in the moves that we make, in the decisions that we deeply, deeply think about. It's always God that's in our mind, not the God that's in somebody's church, not the God that's in somebody's religion, but the God that we walk with every day. And as I studied all the religions, I came to the firm belief that God is not limited to any person's religious perspective. And what have we seen in all the different religions? We've seen how the greatest of all the teachers was somebody who was in direct rebellion to the conformative thought of that time. So I say this to you because I want you to understand that when we step into our own awareness and when we step into our own relationship, it may pull you, watch this, it may pull you away from everyone else. It may take away your group confidence, because the pursuit of a true spiritual walk does not involve a crowd. You know, when I was a kid, so much of my faith was about the people who had moved on. You know, I thought about my grandmother. I thought about my grandfathers. I thought about people that we lost. And I said, I'm going to hold on to my religion because it's my connection back to these people who have left the earth. Some of you, when you think of your religion, you think about your family members who have moved on. You think about the people who are in heaven waiting for you. And what is it really? It's just a way to appease your fear that you may never truly see these people again. You know, let me ask you this question and really think about this. Do you need a religion to understand that we are all part of the same Creator, that we are all part of the same spiritual being? You know, one of the problems that I've had with religion is that it compartmentalizes each one of us. It makes us feel as though we and God are not as one. We go around worshiping Jesus or worshiping Muhammad or worshiping one of the prophets of Moses or Isaiah or somebody. We worship all of these Abrahamic icons instead of understanding that the God who created us in those religions created us with his own spirit, his own breath. See, now I don't personally hold to any particular faith approach. I don't particularly believe that there's any one religion that expresses the truth, because all of them have been traditionalized. All of them have been reworded into this thing we call English in a way that makes it more religion than it is relationship. But see, here's the relationship that I think most of us don't get. And this is what today's conversation is truly about. I want you to understand that you are part of the divine spirit that creates the God you serve. So many of us, we don't understand this because we haven't studied the history of religions. We don't understand that the reason why we needed religions were because they were uses for relationship guidance with the Creator. But we have lost our relationships, you guys. And this is the part that bothers me more than anything else. And I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. Too many of you have been told. Too many of you have been told that God is something separate than you. Whatever this expression you have, even the word God sometimes comes with its own stereotypes, comes with its own pejoratives, comes with its own expression that may not be what it really should be to you. Okay, I'm going to say it to you in this way. God is a phrase, but the uniqueness cannot be expressed. See, we spend so much time trying to find the right religion, trying to find the right Bible, trying to find the right scripture, trying to find the right prophet, trying to find the right teacher, instead of realizing that the God that we are searching for is directly connected and inside of us, is all around us, and is the very same deep depth spiritual truth that we are pursuing, but we don't know it. What I'm trying to walk you away from is this belief that somehow there's a religion that can best incorporate your ability to communicate with the divine spirit. There is no book that you can read that can teach you the oneness you already have. There is no prophet that you can follow that will fulfill the bridge, the gap, the relationship requirement that is you right now today. See, as you study religions, you'll find out something. You'll find out that religions replaced spiritual relationships. You'll find out that the religion that you follow, that you believe wholeheartedly, was not the first thing that was there. And if you study it and you really truly understand what you are studying, you'll find out the books that you follow are already teaching you that. See, because before there was any religion, there was the divine. And before there was any need for a book to read, there was an internal relationship. But what we have found to be the hardest thing, and some of you deeply know what I'm talking about, when you need to go to the outside to find out a way to communicate with the inside, you've already missed the relationship part, which is what we deeply need. See, in a day like today, when times are troubling, when we've got so many hardships, when we've got so many reasons to deeply connect with the Spirit, we find nothing more than dogma. We find traditions. We find alienation. We find restrictions, and we find beliefs that one direction is better than another direction, and this direction is better than that direction. You know, one of the things that I found most amazing to me was that the original belief between God and us was that we were one, and that God was as close to us as we were to God in the inside. But now today, we are being taught that God is some great being outside and we're some limited creation on the inside. We're this thing on earth made of dirt, all full of sin and all negative. And you know what? If it wasn't for, if it wasn't for Jesus dying on the cross, or if it wasn't for Muhammad sending us a book so that we can better understand the relationship, we'd all be damned. But this is not the case. See, wherever you find religion, you're going to find a restriction. And that restriction is directly connected to how you and God are combined. See, here's the thing that I'm saying to you, and I say it to you with the greatest respect. You can have whatever religious pursuit you choose as long as you understand it's not your religion that connects you to God. It's a relationship. When you see the relationship is not determined on some specific belief that you have in a particular faith approach, you'll stop judging other people. See, when you understand that divinity is on the inside of you, it's not in a church, it's not in a temple, it's not in a mosque, then you will better realize and have empathy for the greatness in the love that people express their spirituality in. You know, as I studied Egyptians, as I've studied the Hindu faith, as I've studied Buddhism, as I've studied Hebraic faith, Abrahamic religions, and Islamic beliefs, as I've studied the Sunnis, as I've studied all of the Sufis, I realized something. And that is, the greatest misconception is when somebody teaches you that their way is the only way. You know, when you read what is called the Bible, and then you come away feeling like that was the only time that God has ever communicated with people, you've lost a real understanding of how God communicates. When you walk away and you're feeling this belief that somehow there is no relationship outside of a tradition, outside of a religious practice, you've lost your understanding of what it means to be one with the Father. You know, here's what I'm going to say to you. I'm going to say to you that ultimately you and the Father are one. Not just Jesus and the Father, but you and the Father are one. See, when the book came out, when the language was expressed, it was controlled by the people who were controlling the people. But you have to see this. You have to understand that God is no respecter of people, no respecter of a particular person. There are no greater and there are no lesser. There is only God. And we are all part of God. See, too many of us, we get this thing confused because we're believing somehow in some eternal damnation, some belief that somehow you either follow these rules or you live forever in punishment. Where do we get this from? We get this from other people's opinions of God. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is real. God is not limited to another person's religion. God is not limited to your so-called awareness of who Father is, or who Mother is, or who the Great Spirit is. Because all of these things were done through the filter of oppression, whether we see it or not. Are you going to maintain this belief in this oppressive thought, where we have to follow some dogmatic approach, some dogmatic awareness campaign, tradition, or what have you? See, I'm telling you today that the Spirit speaks to the Spirit, and that it's at any moment in your life that you choose to feel, you choose to believe, you choose to connect with the deeper truth, you become that truth. See, when you live in a lie, when you live in a belief that you are nothing and that God is this great oppressive force that if you don't do everything you're told, you'll die, you'll burn in hell. Well, this is what you focus on. This is the sadness of who we are. You know, today I have to be honest with you. I have to tell you that sadly, we're not catching it. We're not believing it, and we're not receiving it. We're not getting what it is that we're supposed to get from our spiritual walk. And this is what's destroying our happiness. I said, this is what's destroying our oneness with the Creator. Too many times we feel rejected, we feel limited, we feel helpless because of what? Because of what? Because a particular religious approach did not allow us to get the truth out of what it was we were seeking. I'm going to ask you this, and I really want you to think about it. How many times have you said to yourself, why come I have to follow this person's perspective on spirituality? What is wrong with the conversation I'm having with God today? See, again, here is the pain. Here is the truth. And here is the sadness. The sadness is too often and far too long, we are sitting in a world where judgment is the only way to religious prosperity. But God is the only judge. Not a book that says it's God, not a preacher who says he speaks for God, and most certainly not somebody's tradition that's based on a group think of a certain culture that now has been superimposed on everybody else. And now because they have had dominance, you have to succeed and deal in their conversation piece. I'm asking y'all today to deeply think about the difference between religion and spirituality. Understanding that spirituality has been here since the beginning of time. Understanding that a spiritual walk with the Most High has been here since day one. Religions change. God doesn't. Hey, this is your boy, Tone Duncan. You're listening to the Sunday Conversation. The Sunday Conversation is all about one thing and one thing only. And that is separating ourselves from religious confinement, moving away from a belief that somehow, some way, somebody else holds sway over the relationship that you've always had and you always will. Oh man, I'm talking about people who have truly shaped their entire life on somebody's religious perspective. And you know, even though you are smart enough, even though you're intelligent enough to know that this cannot be the right way to go about it, in the clutch, in the middle of your deepest reasonings, when you judge and you make a determination over whether or not somebody is spiritually inclined to be one with the Father like you, you base it on some religious belief that you had. So many of us believe so eclectically. I mean, we can't help it. Look here, we believe in the Jesus that was all about turning the other cheek. We believe in the Moses that destroyed, gentrified, who just went out and killed whole groups of people, and we try to blend it together. See, we believe in loving your neighbor like you love yourself, but then we also believe that you're supposed to remove yourself from people who don't identify with your religious beliefs. See, you can't have it both ways. See, I'm telling you right now, at the end of the day, in order for you to truly find your spiritual truth, you have to move away from the dogmatic religions that have caused you to be descendants of ignorance, descendants of confusion, and descendants of dogmatic belief. We can't be this anymore. We have to move away from this foolishness. We have to move away from judging people based on how well they conform to your beliefs. See, I talk to people so often, and so many people, they have a powerful love for spiritual truth. They love each other. They love a mighty powerful God, but they're conflicted on how to treat people who disagree with their beliefs. I mean, come on, let's talk about this, because the reality is, if you cannot let go and let God dictate what God will have, you've lost it all. So many of us, we feel like it's our responsibility to police other people's religion, as if God isn't more powerful than you and does not need your help to dictate what goes on in the lives of other people. I don't care what religion we're talking about. If we're talking about Moses, God came to Moses. If we're talking about Jesus, Jesus had a message through a personal relationship with God. If we're talking about Muhammad, Muhammad was spoken to by God. We're talking about Abraham, Abraham was talked to by God. Abraham actually listened to what God said because God spoke specifically directly to him according to this tradition, and he went on that, and that was called faith. See, but when you listen to somebody who is not your God, when you listen to somebody who is not coming from the inside of you, going through your mind and into your actions, that's not faith. That's religion. No, that's not faith at all. When's the last time you sat down, started to listen to the deeper self, the truer self, the one, the deepness within you who navigates the you believe you are to come up with who you are supposed to be? See, this is where the real conversation gets really dicey at for a lot of people, is because it is impossible for so many of us to see God if we don't have a book to read. Even in the religion, even in Christianity, it says we walk by faith and not by sight. But yet and still, we have to read scripture point and verse. We've got to make sure that we're following all of these different traditions, and we're not understanding that God is not that tradition. No, I'm going to say it again. The creator that we serve is the creator who speaks to the deep, speaks to the inside, to the heart of man, to the heart of woman, guides our steps, walks with us through our darkest moments, so that we have an understanding. There is no need for fear. See, because God is not a God that only rewards you when you're good and then gives you damnation when you are bad. This is foolishness. This was how premature people thought at a time where they did not understand true faith. See, true faith is not thinking that God is on your side when everything is well and thinking that God is against you when you're going through tribulation. You have to understand, let's walk this thing back to understand that this is not about, God is with me. That's why I'm driving nice. God is with me. That's the reason why my life is so great. God is not with this person. That's why they're struggling. This is all foolishness, because when you are confounded with cancer, when there's been deep, deep trauma in your family, that same powerful God is with you. But we put too much stake in this thing called life. We believe somehow that the fulfillment of who we are is based on our living on earth. No, see, we were divine beings sent to this earth like fingers on a hand. The pinky only knows the pinky, but it doesn't realize it's part of the greater body. Why is this? Because it's a pinky in its own mind. It's a pinky in the way you see life. But as you see yourself, you'll see, I am more than just this me. I am part of a greater truth. I am one piece to the greater divinity. You are part of the divine. And it didn't take some salvation. It didn't take some form of punishment. It didn't take some form of agreement through some form of religious tradition. These things are not real. What's real is you being aware of who you are. Know thyself is what the great Egyptians taught. And you will know God. But if you do not know yourself, if you do not see that you are not limited to the traditions of your peers, then you will never see the divine possibilities that are within you. See, one of the primary issues that we have in our spiritual path and in our deepest walks is that we're trying to see ourselves through one tradition. How many of you, and this is what I've noticed, some of the most animate, some of the most, down, dirty, religious folk never even read their own scriptures. So when I try to talk to them about what's in their scriptures, I don't care what scriptures they are, I try to talk to them about them, they don't even know them. They may know a couple of verses, and they may hold everything they think based on those verses. But when you speak to them about the actual theology of their books, most of them don't study. And for those who do study, they study with the belief that only what they see is real. Nothing other than what was told to them about what they see. And there's even a way of spinning it around where they say you're not even allowed to give it your own personal thought. You must do it the way your ancestors did it. Every single religion has been connected to the oppression and the mass murder of somebody, some group. Every one of them. Every one. Every single religion talks specifically about the pain, the hurt, and the torture of a group because they were so-called on the wrong side of God. See, what I'm going to tell you right now is that the suppression is not real. It's the oppression of the individual based on the evil of another. And then this gets called religion. This is not religion. Relationship, y'all. This is what I want you to see today. And I'm hopeful that you will. I'm hopeful that you will stop finding another reason to think that religion is a relationship. It isn't. No, it's not. You know, when I talk to people about relationships, I realize one thing. The one thing that I realize is that our relationships are oftentimes based on who we think we're supposed to be, and not based on allowing our divine truth to point to us in the right direction. So here's what I ask, and maybe you can help me to understand this. Why do we feel that our spiritual truth is hung up on a particular religious approach? It can't be. It never can be. And every single religion shows you that the one you celebrate was against almost all the orthodox teachings of that particular person's time. Why is this? Why is it? It's because the focus is understanding that through your own relationship, you will find truth. You're not going to find truth if you're looking for it through somebody else's opinion. So many times we try to do what the pastor says. We try to do what the book says. We try to do what the tradition says, instead of doing what the God inside of us says. You know, if you followed the God that was inside of you, instead of the God that was outside telling everybody else what to do, you would find out that the God in you was more true. The God in you was more real. The God in you was more loving. The God in you allowed you to deal with the problems of today in a more loving, more intelligent, more effective way. This is what the problem is. Listen to me, guys. I'm telling you right now. The issue that we're having, and this is a Sunday conversation for you. The issue that we're having is that we are trying to break away from other people's opinion on what God is and what a relationship with God is, what a spiritual path with God is, what a walk with God is, by understanding God is not something on the outside. God is inside of you. It is the spirit that you are. See, one of the problems that I used to have with this word soul was this word soul made it seem as though you're separate from everything else. But the reality is that every spiritual being is a soul, like a cell in an organism. Yes, you are your own organism, but you you are your own cell, but you make up a greater organism. This organism, the organism is our divinity. It is part of the great being that we call ourselves to follow. Too many times I've noticed that we want to separate ourselves and be servants instead of being part of the service. See, we don't accept our divinity because we've been taught that we are not divine. We have been taught by people who we are supposed to look up to that we are down. We are taught that the only way that we can ever be anything is if we follow somebody else's approach towards divinity. How many of you understand deeply that you and God are one? You and God are one. Yeah, see, this is the problems that we have. And I can show you this in every religion. I can show you this in every single spiritual path. Because it's too many times, y'all, too many times that I see somebody feeling like they're nothing. I see somebody feeling like they're worthless. I see somebody feeling like they are of no value. They were made for no reason. They have no purpose in life. But the reality is they don't know their own divinity. They don't understand the spiritual significance of their walk on this earth. They don't realize that before they were here, they were present in the universe. The divinity of each of our souls was here before our inception. I want to talk to you guys today because here's the deal that I've had. The deal that I've had is that I've been so deeply trying to have this conversation with respect to everybody's religious diversity, but at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about saying, I respect your religion. I respect your religious ways that you go about life. But understand this. If it doesn't lead you to knowing that you and God are one, if it doesn't lead you to understanding that you are part of the divine, if it doesn't lead you to understanding you are not a servant, but you are the caretaker of this world, if it doesn't get you to understand that you were never going through punishment, you were going through an education, you were going through learning. Every single time that we make mistakes, it's not a punishment, it's a lesson. We learn through our mistakes and we grow. This is what life is about. This is the divine purpose of our existence. We together create the divine truth. You know, when I had to let go of religion, I was worried about what that meant. You know, because I thought somehow that when you let go of religion, somehow you let go of God. But it's not the case. Sometimes when you let go of this belief you have of God, you think somehow that means you are no longer believing in a spiritual power. That's not true either. Because some of us, we know that this belief we have of God is kind of mythological. It isn't really deeply what we mean. Meaning that yes, we believe wholeheartedly in this extreme power, this true thing, this existence that is unexplainable. But we don't believe in this mythological creature. We don't believe in these stories that sometimes are supposed to help us understand, but instead of using the stories to help us understand, we are confined in these stories as if that's the understanding. Yeah, see, today was going to have a big conversation about some things that weren't that comfortable to discuss. Today, we knew we was going to have a conversation that was about letting go of somebody else's opinion of who God is, letting go of somebody else's understanding of what it means to be one with God, letting go of what other people have to say about God, and letting God dictate God to you. Some of y'all already been through this. Some of y'all have already said, you know what, I can't do the church anymore. I can't believe all these particular stories. And you know what, I'm just not going to roll with all of this foolishness. I want to just know, and you hear people say this all the time, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Well, let me tell you something right now. You were spiritual regardless if you were religious or not. Some people, sadly, they lost their spirituality because they held on too tight to their religion. See, because in your mind, if it isn't your religion, then there is no spiritual truth. So you judge all spiritual truth based on a religion. And when you find out that your religion isn't as inerrant as you were told, when you find out that some of the stories in your book were actually regressed stories from another book, when you find out that some of the traditions in your religion were nothing more than the other traditions of religions that came before it, then what do? You lose your spirituality because you did not know that these stories are not God. You did not know that the divinity, the truth, the power, the supreme being was not that which you could comprehend in one paragraph, but it was a path towards enlightenment that took a daily introspection spiritually to better understand your truth, to better understand your purpose, and to better understand something so powerful it could never be expressed in one particular approach. Some people believe it can never be expressed in one lifetime. Some people believe in reincarnation. Some people believe in all kind of different things. I personally don't limit my thoughts to any particular approach. And the reason why is because when you are connected with the Most High, you realize nothing in this world matters other than to recognize the God in other people. See, because I know of the God that's in me, not the God because of the God I serve, not because of the God because of the religious belief that I have, but because of the divine creation that I am, I see the divinity in you. See, when I know that God has nothing but the greatest in me, I see the greatest of God in you. Some of us think that because some people have all of these different particular religious differences and they're told this particular thing or that particular thing, they need to be judged. No, we need to stop with the judgment. We need to let go of the judgment, y'all. We can't do judgment anymore. I appreciate all of the comments, you guys. I appreciate all of the thoughts, all the considerations. It is truly meaningful to me. Truly meaningful to me. But I have to tell you guys this, and I want you to understand. Today was a different conversation because today I had to get something off my chest. Today I had to explain where the real issue is in our relationships with each other. Because as long as my relationship with you is based on whether or not I identify and connect well with your religious beliefs, we're going to always have a problem. And the problem is going to be that I am not confined to your religion. The problem is going to be that I do not have a need to serve your religion, nor does your religion best teach me about the spiritual truth that is me. See, and I can respect your religion because whatever it is that makes you confident in the Creator that created all things, I call that a necessary step. But the very next step is to understand that no words can articulate the divine. And if no words can express the things that are not articulated, then how can any words suffice? See, when you go deep, I know some of y'all had people like that in y'all family like that. Like I had a grandmother, she was so spiritual, she was so deep. You know, she couldn't tell you all the things in the Bible. She couldn't tell you all the different dogmatic beliefs, but she could tell you how to go deep in yourself and talk to God. See, and that's been with us forever. But when the religions changed, the relationships stayed the same. Some of y'all, you're going to find out. And I know a lot of us, we've talked about this off and on the air. We've talked about how religions are being found every day now. We're finding more and more about every single religion. Some of you guys don't know a lot about where the religions come from. Some of you know like enough to teach a class, and that's cool. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. What matters is that we keep moving towards spiritual truth. Spiritual truth is real, y'all. Spiritual truth sets us away from being disregarding other people. Spiritual truth takes us away from the belief that somebody's right and another person's wrong. Spiritual truth allows us to see God in every person. Spiritual truth allows us to see that God is not limited to the religious belief on who God is. See, because just like you're not limited to what your religion told you was, neither is God. I had an atheist tell me one time they didn't believe in God. I told him, explain who God is to you. And then when he explained it to me, I said, I agree with you. I don't believe in that God either. I'm as atheist as you are about this fictitious God that doesn't exist. And so many of us, we have to understand something. You cannot hold on to a myth. You cannot believe that somehow a particular myth, a particular story, a particular belief is the maximal understanding, the awareness of the Creator. Because if you can let go of that, you can start to believe that there's something greater than you can articulate. There's something greater that can ever be expressed by any particular book. You can see that God is a powerful being that's in you, that powers you. Man, I studied the stories of how the great Egyptians tried to express the power of God. They'd use symbols. And these symbols were not to try to say that that was God, but that was the power of God. See, we have become believers that the symbols are God and not the symbols of what they represent. We cannot limit our thinking because that trivializes the divine. As I said before, the greatest idolatry I've ever seen is somebody's belief that a book was divine. See, when you start to give divinity to any particular book, then there's no reason to have a God. Your book is more powerful than your relationship. And when you understand that your book cannot be on par with that which is unexplainable, that which is unexpressible, that which is for so long and so much of our life even uncomprehendable, then you'll let go of that foolishness. You'll start to understand, man, God is powerful. God is bigger than my belief. God is bigger than my judgment. God is bigger than my awareness of what's right and wrong in another individual. Some of you guys, you got problems with every single thing based on a religious understanding. The way we treat people who are of alternative lifestyles, the way that we treat people who seem to have made mistakes in the past, the way we look at people who are promiscuous, the way that we look at people who are not in a religious lifestyle, the way that we look at all these individuals is based on a religious understanding. But if you will look at these people like they themselves are part of the divine, you would not judge them, you would love them. By loving them, you would break the walls that separate them. By loving them, they would see that you are genuinely a follower of the Most High. Yeah, they'd see God in you. They see God in you as if it was a religion in itself. But let me tell you this, and please know this is the truth. God is greater than any religious belief you could possibly ever have. Man, today was a tough day, y'all, because today we separated ourselves officially from any particular approach towards religion. Because all religions serve a purpose. And that purpose is a pathway towards the divine. But it is not the divine. No, it just gets you towards something. See, it's like when somebody says, how do you get to such and such place? Well, you go this way right here. Well, going this way is not there. It's just getting you there. At some particular point, you'll understand the path was only to get you to the truth. But it is not the truth. It is only a path to the truth. What you'll find out is there are other paths that take you to that same truth if you walk that path in truth. See, God is not limited to the word God. Our understanding of the divine is so uncomprehendable that utilizing these titles, utilizing these names are all beneath the Most High, the unexpressible. You know, the belief that any particular name, any particular religion, any particular methodology is the correct way is almost blasphemy, because there's no possible way that you can comprehend what it truly means to be spiritually on par with God. We just walk in that direction. Today, we had some tough talk because too many times we try to find God within the religion and not understand that your religion is not based on the pursuit of God. No, no, no. The religion is not based on the pursuit of God. The relationship you have with God is how we base that pursuit. Let go of your religion, y'all. And when I say let go of it, I don't mean throw it away. I mean, me personally, I let it go. But you hold on to it if that's what you want. But understand that it is only a path. And understand that it's a path that may work for you. But it doesn't mean the person that's not on that path has the wrong path. See, because you know, even in every path, it says if you search diligently, God will reveal himself. And you know, it's so deep. Because when we search diligently, that means that we stop thinking we know the right way. We say, okay, I must allow truth to rescue me because I can't find it in all of these fallacies. Man, we could talk for hours, because the reality of the matter is some of us, we need to let go of this thing that we thought was truth so that we can finally experience the love of truth. We can stop feeling so pushed away from God because of others and understand that God is in you, man. God is in you, has never left you. No matter what you've been through, no matter how dark the hour, no matter how sad your experience, no matter how terrible your decision, God was with you. And you have to know this. Because when we know this, we start to walk towards truth. We start to walk towards God's awareness in us. We have to understand this. This is a tough one. We have to understand that God is neither here or there based on your religion. You can change religions 4 or 5 times, you're still going to have the same God. Now, I'm going to say that again because some of y'all didn't catch that. You can change religions 4 or 5 times, you're going to still have the same God. Because God is not based on your religion. Just the way you connect and communicate. That's all that is. So if you're a Buddhist, if you're a Hindu, if you're a Taoist, if you're a Muslim, if you're whatever, listen, the God that you serve is the God you relationship with, the God that you walk with, the God that you meditate with, the God that you understand you are part of. We got to get away from this belief where back when there was a king, everything was looked at like God was the king and you were the subject. When there were oppressive governments, they made us understand God to be the great powerful one, and we were the subject, the servant, the one that had to do everything a particular way in order to find favor. These were only illustrations based on the way the culture was oppressed at the time. But when you know inside of you is the spirit of truth, when you understand that God is working within the inner parts of each one of us, and that isn't a God that came into you, it was a God that made you who you are. You came intact with this divine spirit. It wasn't something you found when you were lost. No, it's something you discovered when you were lost that was always in you, and it enlightened you and brought you back towards where you were supposed to be. Today's conversation was all about understanding that the divine is in you, and the divine has always been in you. And no matter what another person's religious perspective is, you will always be one with the divine, because that is how you breathe. You can't live without the divinity in you. Life is the divine. I'll say this again. You being alive is based on the divinity within you. No, you weren't some creature and all of a sudden God came into your heart and then you were somebody. No, we have a poor understanding of truth. See, the truth is you were born with the divine spirit, and that's how you live. That's what made the heart pump. That's what made the brain think, was the spirit inside of you. That wasn't some individual compartmentalized spirit where every single person has their own spirit. It was all one spirit. We are one spirit. We are one in the God, in the truth, in the Creator. You ain't gonna find this in a religion, because religions try and divide you away, separate you, turn you into a culture, make the God look like somebody in their culture, in their ethnicity, in their walk. But see, God is not limited to any of these things. Man, today was a good conversation. I had a great chance to really deal with this conversation with you guys. It's been something that has been really deep into my heart. For those of you who had a lot to say on the chat line, I appreciate that. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I've seen so many great comments, but today I just had to give y'all what was on my heart. I appreciate it. I'm going to get back on this. I'm going to comment back and forth with you, really get through some of these conversations. I know some of you had some amazing things to say, and I'm so thankful for that. But today I had to give it to you the way it was feeling in me. Today, I had to make sure that we had an understanding. And that is, I am not trying to help you to look at your religion in a different way. What I'm trying to tell you is your religion is fine for you, but the relationship is based on the divinity that you have in you. No matter what relationship you want to have with God, realize that the relationship starts and ends with the fact that you are a part of the divine. No, the divine is not something on the outside and you're something over here. No. The divine is in you and around you. It's in every single scripture that you can read, in every single spiritual path that you can walk. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as divinity outside of the one. And there is no way it can be one unless you were part of it. That's what makes it one. The completion, the wholeness. You are part of the whole. You're part of the one. You are part of the divine. You are never lost. You are never forsaken. You are never cast away. God is with you and you are with God. Remember when I tell you that the God in you is the you in God. If you can get that, if you understood your true divinity, if you understood the true spiritual connection that you have always had, regardless of your past, regardless of your present, regardless of your future, if you get this, man, you'll let go of these bonds. You'll let go. You'll break free of all the punishment, the ridicule, the dogmatic traditions, and you'll see the truth. And that truth is not religion. That truth is relationship. I thank y'all so much because today was a real Sunday conversation. I hope you enjoyed what I said. I hope you share your thoughts. I hope you express yourself. If you have differences of opinions with me, I completely respect that. Love to engage and talk about it. If you're just completely religious and you just want to try and shoot me down with your religion, I respect that too. I probably won't respond because I'm not into having religious debates. The reason why is because, the truth is, hey, a teacher can only offer what he's taught. And my teaching is that you have the same divinity in you and God can speak to you directly. I don't have to defend God. I don't have to defend my approach. I don't have to do any of that stuff. If you truly believe that the way that you are walking is the way that God intended you to walk on. It's no problem with me. None at all. I'm helping those who have felt lost in a way they didn't understand that it wasn't about being accepted by a group. It was about understanding the unity that you already had with the divine inside. Hey, this your boy, Tone Duncan. Until next week, hey, I'm going to be looking forward to our next Sunday conversation. Peace.